Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 161 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this first quarter moon episode, we discuss pride and sexual identity. We speak with Samuel Douek, who is the CEO and founder of HOWL, a community that hosts raves, sex parties, and sells award-winning lube. I also review the series The L Word, which was one of my favourite lesbian series from almost 20 years ago, I can't believe it. And the episode ends with a meditation with affirmations for celebrating pride. But first of all, let me share with you some of my own reflections on my experiences in the LGBTQ community. Let's celebrate Pride Month. So I have been very close to the LGBTQ plus community for so many years of my life in many different instances and periods of my life, especially when I lived in Madrid. There's an area in Madrid called Douek, which is where all the gay bars are and gay clubs, and it is so much fun. I remember I lived in Madrid for 2 years, and the first year I was there, I was more into kind of the clubbing scene, house music, going out all night. And the second year I was into the more pop and drag queens, that side of it. And it was just so much fun. And I really like the dynamic between, predominantly straight woman and gay men. There's a very special friendship that can emerge in those dynamics. I do really love that male perspective with someone who's doesn't have any ulterior motives with you. It seems very safe, and you can, especially talking about sex, it's so much fun to talk about sex and get tips from gay men about how to please a man. Yeah, it's very juicy and very entertaining. And I really enjoy I really had such a good time in Madrid. And when I came to Barcelona, I was trying to recreate that energy, but it just wasn't the same, even though there is a thriving gay community here in Madrid. I'm here in Barcelona. And also just outside Barcelona, there is a town on the sea, on the coast called Sitges, which is very, has a big thriving gay community. And I go there a lot. I have a lot of friends there. And it's really quite a lot of fun to be in those environments, especially when I come and bring all of my sex toys and give them away. And there's something very special about the friendship between a woman and a gay man. It's something that I have been magnetizing several times in my life. But about 15 years ago, I had my own I had a very different connection with the LGBTQ community, because I was starting to get very bi-curious, and I was very curious about the lesbian world, and I wanted to discover sapphic sensations. And it was a time in my life that brought a lot of confusion to myself. So all of these questions of, should I label my sexuality? Is it down to the person I'm with, or is it really that I have, attractions to men and women, or is it just the person who's provoking this in me? I had all of these doubts in my mind, and all these questions of, should I label myself or should I come out? And I still don't have the answer to those questions. I think it's a very personal thing, because not everyone wants to come out 100%, let's say, in their work environment, in their social environment. Some people just don't feel safe doing it, don't feel that it's necessary sometimes. So it can be very confusing. And going through this identity crisis almost can be incredibly confusing. And I remember I've already shared this on here, but I remember the first time I was with a woman, it started off as curiosity, and then it became something else. It became emotional, which at first I just thought it would be a sexual thing. And then I started to think, oh, who else could I experience this with? And it took me on a 3-year journey of sapphic explorations in Barcelona, and I didn't quite find what I was looking for. And I remember the first woman I was with, she said to me when I was explaining to her how confused I felt, she said, "You're not a lesbian, you're not straight, you're just sexual." And I was like, "You don't understand." But now looking back, I wish I had that attitude for myself and just been more relaxed about the whole thing. But of course, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But more recently, as my sexuality evolves, because sexuality is very fluid, and right now I am way more interested and attracted to men, and I just love male energy, and yeah, that's what I crave the most. But I'm realizing a lot that I just feel a lot more demisexual lately, and that means that I really want to have. I think I'm more attracted to people that I have an emotional connection with, and that really for me is the most beautiful way to experience sex. I'm not alone in that, and it's very frustrating to have a very high libido and then not be attracted to the majority of people that you meet in your life, which is something that I don't think I'm alone in feeling that. And then you have to be very careful about where you're putting your heart and your emotions, because I've been in situations quite recently that have ended up being quite emotionally toxic. So right now I've been going through a very deep healing experience process, and now I'm kind of trying to be a bit more intentional about my where my energy is going as far as my personal life is concerned. And I read something quite interesting in on Instagram this morning with someone talking about how she just kind of meandered through life and was choosing pleasure, not sexual pleasure, but just pleasure in general, as guidance. And she's looking back now thinking she wishes she'd been more intentional about, creating a life vision and working towards it. And that's something that kind of resonates with me a lot, especially as far as my personal life is concerned, because I've been quite lost so many times in my life, and also craving that closeness and touch of another individual. But it's never that simple, especially when there is emotional connections. It could open up minefields. So I think it's super important to, make sure that there is safety on many levels, physical safety, emotional safety, so that you can fully express yourself and explore. Because there's something so beautiful when there is an emotional connection with someone else and you're building towards something. That's another level though, because you can have an emotional connection with someone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are co-creating a life together, because that's a different level entirely. So yeah, it's just very very confusing sometimes, all this relational stuff, because one side is the physical, the sexual side, but that is kind of the foundation often to our emotional lives and how we are relating in society as individuals, couples, families, etc. So whatever you're going through now, if anyone is having any confusion about their sexuality, I wish you well, and I hope the meditation at the end of this episode, the Pride Month affirmations, will really help you to embrace your who you are, and and give you some courage to express that. And I think it's always also really important to have someone you can confide in, and there are many different organizations as well that can help you. Anyway, I'm going to interview someone today who is very prolific in this world, and who will be sharing more about the LGBTQ community with Samuel Douek. If you enjoy the affirmations and meditations I share here, you will love the longer versions I've created on Insight Timer, the world's #1 meditation app, available in the App Store and on Google Play. Every Friday, I release a brand new guided practice on topics like love, health, wealth, motivation, abundance, and many more things, all designed to help you relax, recharge, and realign. Just search for Venus O'Hara on Insight Timer or follow the link in the show notes. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We speak with Samuel Douek, who is the CEO and founder of HOWL, a community that hosts raves, sex parties, and sells award-winning lube. Samuel Douek, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast, where every day is a climax.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor and a privilege to be part of this orgasmic journey with you.
Amazing. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Yes, I'm the founder and CEO of HOWL, which is a queer rave based in London and a kind of emerging sexual wellness brand. And I'm also a film director. So that's a little rounded version of who I am and what I do.
Amazing. So how did it all happen then? Because I watched a video about how a rave became a lube. That's a very unique journey. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I kind of woke up one day and decided I wanted to become a lube mogul. I mean, maybe you decided that you wanted to be a sex toy reviewer from day dot. But it kind of happened quite organically. I trained as an architect and then transitioned into film directing and had been kind of pursuing a career in film from my like mid-20s onwards. And alongside that, I'd been running queer events. So started with small club nights, went to performance events. And about 5 years ago, I kind of wanted to do a big queer rave. I felt like I was ready to take on like a bigger nightlife project, and wanted to create something that I kind of felt was missing in the London space, which was a very inclusive queer party where all different members of the LGBTQ community came under one roof together, and one that was very sex positive. So, you know, in many ways, I think there's similar parties, but I think sex positive events that are queer tend to be specifically just for gay men, or they're very straight, and often like music tastes, DJ lineups, kind of lean towards communities that are very one-dimensional. And for me, I really wanted to be in a space and create a space that was really diverse and really inclusive and just really sexy, hot, and fun.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how Howl started. In 2019, we did one party, and that was it. The pandemic happened, so no more events. Live events came to a complete standstill. And me, like many other DJs, promoters, event curators, wondered if events would ever really happen again. So during the pandemic, I kind of decided that HOWL should evolve into a sexual wellness brand. And that was because, HOWL already was a very sex positive, progressive, forward-thinking brand. But also because I just didn't really see any other exciting brands in that space. I mean, I think when you think of lube, you think of Durex, Liquid Silk, you think of very like dated pharmaceutical brands that aren't really doing much in the way of like community or education. So I saw this kind of big opportunity to create something meaningful that I believed in, and that kind of, really wanted to break down taboos and barriers around sex, intimacy, and kind of normalize, sex, and really confront what I think is the biggest issue that I think everyone faces, and I actually think is the root of most kind of political trauma is shame. I think, the shame that we all live with, which, touches everybody, regardless of your race, gender, religion, class. We all experience shame. And I think if we tackle that shame head on, we can all live more fulfilled, more accepting, more empathic lives. And I wanted to create a brand that really focused on that through the lens of sexual wellness and events. So in 2021, when the events came back, we launched with some merch, basically. We had two lubricants. They were CBD infused to kind of tackle the problem of discomfort. But at that time, really, we were just a party with some merch. And I was focusing on my directing career, if I'm going to be fully honest with you, Venus. Um, and if anything, the kind of unexpected growth of how we got into Selfridges, the event started doing well. We sold out batch one, propelled me to want to run this as a proper startup and a proper business and scale it into a company that can be worldwide and become a legacy brand that means something to people. So that's how it started.
So why lube? Was lube the first idea you had, or would you think of other things like maybe condoms or toys, or were there any kind of other products that you thought could represent Howl, or was it just why
Yeah,
lube?
that's a really good question. I think, transparently as a like queer man in the age of like prep and you know modern medicine, condoms aren't that frequently used anymore. So in many ways, it's something that we will definitely do, and it's something that's very important. But it's not something that I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with something functional that
Mm,
people needed and that I thought was a bit shit.
mm,
Um, Now there are amazing brands. There are some really fantastic lube brands who are doing interesting things, but I would argue that they're really not going far enough. In my mind, lube kind of falls into two camps. You've got your like 1.0 basic pharmaceutical, often quite low grade ingredients. That's very entry level. It's what you buy at Boots. It's, the first thing you think of because you don't really think about lube. You just buy it because you need it. It's completely functional. Then there's the second wave of newer brands like Maud, Dame, Liquid Silk, Good Parts that are really nicely branded and they are packed with good ingredients. They're high quality lubes, and I think in many ways they're admirable, the brands that have been built. But I think they really fall short of doing anything more.
mm,
And that I think is where how really comes in. Not only is it a really high quality, high grade premium product, we've now won some awards,
mm,
but it's a great product, but there's a world around it, and that world has a mission. Whether that's tearing down shame, progressing sex education, cultivating community, everything we do, is looking to kind of revolutionize intimacy for all and to improve the kind of sexual well-being of our audience and beyond. And we do that through our events, through our products, the formulation, the design, and also through the media we create. We're actually the first brand, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but
mm,
I think we're the first brand to kind of really break into the cultural mainstream. We're collaborating with Universal Music, with the dating app Field, with
mm,
major institutions like the Barbican, with big celebrities like Shy Girl and Jade. And I've never seen a sexual wellness brand do that before because sex lives in the shadows. It lives under the
mm,
counter. It's something that you hide away from your bedside table. It's something that you're embarrassed to buy in a shop. And we're the first brand that is like loud, proud, and unapologetic and says you don't need to be embarrassed by that because, if a major gallery like the Tate Modern or the Pompidou wants to work with HOWL and embrace sexual wellness and have conversations around intimacy, then you should be doing that too. And that trickles down to every aspect of the brand, even the way we design the product. You're proud to have it by your bedside table because it looks very chic, it looks discreet, it looks like a beauty product, basically. So we're really normalizing intimacy and tackling shame head on across events, products, and now media.
amazing. So you mentioned CBD for comfort. What can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, so like with the product brand, I think that the best thing we can do for intimacy is to solve problems. So we position ourselves as a problem-solving sex tech brand. And the first problem we wanted to solve was discomfort. A lot of people experience pain or, you know, I don't know, it's just uncomfortable, the act of intimacy, and that's a very normal thing. That's not just anal sex, that's vaginal sex. It could be anything. So we really wanted to create a product that was high grade, but that also solved an issue. And CBD does two things. It helps relax the muscles and it increases blood. It works as a vasodilator, increases blood flow, which, anecdotally enhances pleasure. So for us, we didn't want to launch as a CBD brand. We wanted to launch as a problem-solving sex tech brand. And CBD was our kind of first port of call. Next up, we'll be looking at issues around efficiency or sensitive skin or ease of access or use. So everything we do really wants to like push forward the envelope of product innovation.
Amazing. So tell us, you have two products, is that correct?
Yes, so we have two formulations. We have a water-based lube, which just won the award for best lube at the Eczema Awards, which I'm like very
Oh,
gassed
wow.
about. I
Well
can't believe we
done.
actually won an award. Thank you. And we also have a silicone CBD lube, both have CBD. And actually, we're one of the very few silicone CBD lubes in the world. It's actually quite difficult to make uh, a CBD isolate that can, uh, stay within a silicone lube. So we launched with those products, and when I kind of relaunched the brand at the beginning of this year as a proper startup, like backed by some investment, we expanded that product range. Now we have different sizes, a small, medium, a large, and we also have accessories. And what's exciting is that we are now exploring alongside our main line artist partnerships. So I mentioned, breaking that cultural mainstream. For Fashion Week in London, we collaborated with a designer, Luis de Javier, to redesign the new HOWL bandana as part of London Fashion Week. And today, as of
Oh,
today, we just launched pre-order for a Louvre accessory with Shy Girl, the like, iconic musician and fashion star. And that is really exciting because it positions us as much more than just a lube brand. What it is basically is a silicone lube holder that latches onto your belt, your bag, your thong, but can be filled with more than lube. You can put your lipstick in it, you can put your poppers in it, you can put your testosterone or Viagra. And I think it really kind of represents what Howl is, which is your companion for your rave, for your raves, for the gym, for sex, for anything related to pleasure. And that is what we stand for, is pleasure, really.
I like silicone lube for my hair actually, and
Oh,
for
really?
latex. For
Yeah.
for latex dresses and stuff. It's pretty good. So, what was the production process like? Was it straightforward? Was it more? Were there any kind of obstacles that you didn't expect? Because it can be quite complicated, no, to kind of approve a formula that you like, and you put your name to it. It can be quite
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I mean, I don't come from a business background. I don't even come from a consumer background. I'm a film director, so I didn't really know what I was doing, and in many ways, relied on the kind of team and people around me to help kind of guide that process. Um, Ultimately we wanted to find a factory that we liked and that made things easy for us and that maintains the premium quality that we were really looking for, because you can get a lube made pretty easily anywhere in the world, but getting like a pharmaceutical grade lube that is hypoallergenic, vegan, paraben free, cruelty free, and uses natural CBD, that requires like an extra level of endeavor that we were keen to kind of commit to. And we work with a factory in the Netherlands who create a bespoke formulation for HOWL. So it's exclusive to us. Obviously, you can empathize with this, Venus. The process of testing these products is quite fun. It's also a really good pickup line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like want to test some lube with me because it's for research purposes.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, that's kind of how it began, and we're actually developing a non-CBD lube
Mm.
now as well to add to the line and to extend that. So we're back in the research and testing
Mm.
phase, which again, lends itself to a good time.
Because I actually I just designed sex toys as well in my time. And the very first one I did, I remember, coming from a 3D design to an actual prototype, I didn't, take into consideration the flexibility of it. And this toy I had was way too flexible, and the engineers didn't really understand the clitoris and this kind of thing. So, and I had this really big challenge of, using all of the fantasies in my mind and the biggest of my repertoire to try and like the toy because it's going to have my name. And I was like, I have to write a message that I don't like it, and I had to keep changing this prototype, and it was very hard to kind of, dial into my own fantasy world and try and like something, give a good report. And do you have any challenges like that? You know, just thinking, oh, this is not quite what I'm expecting. Because sometimes there's lots of bumps in the road when you're trying to formulate, come up with the perfect product, and you want to
Yeah,
make
absolutely.
changes.
We very much had that with the Shy Girl collaboration that we've
Mm,
launched today. It's a
mhm.
silicone based product, and in many ways, like I I'm happy that I studied architecture because I had like a tiny bit of like design experience and was able to kind of make some really rudimentary technical drawings to kind of help with the process. But when we received the first samples, I was like, oh my God, this is bad. Like I can't we can't show this to them. Like I'm embarrassed basically. And I kind of had this like mini freak out. It had this like leather skin texture on which we wanted originally, but like the when you see it in person, it was like it just looked so bad. And I was like, okay, no. We gotta change this with colors, we gotta change this, change that. And you know, every decision you make has an effect on lead times, and you know, okay, well, the campaign's got to push back, and it's got to push back. It's going to have this big damaging effect. And I was like, it doesn't matter that when this comes out or how. What matters is that it's really good. And you know, you've kind of got one chance to create a product and launch something that's meaningful to people. It needs to be right. So yeah, I think that was my kind of first testing of like bespoke custom design. And I enjoyed it. I mean, we
Mm.
are going to look to develop sex toys next year. So I'm sure there'll be plenty more of this trial and an error traumatic experience that you sound like you're very familiar with.
But when you get the final one, though, it's really cool, you know, and then you get other people saying they enjoy it. That's a great feeling. You must have had that
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
as
it's like
well.
the oohs and the ahs. It's like, ooh. Yeah, that's what you need. That's what you're looking for.
So tell us the story behind the name, Howl.
So, Howl is named after a poem called Howl, which was written by Allen Ginsberg in, I think, 1956. And it has an interesting story for those who don't know, which is it was banned. It was banned because of its references to homosexuality, to drug use, you know, at a time in America that's like super politically charged post-war. And Alan was part of the kind of beat generation of poets and writers, but probably completely against the intention of the people who sought to ban it. The obscenity trial that ensued for the poem made the poem globally famous because you know, the idea that this poem had been was banned and the US government were taking the publishing house to court. You know, obviously it spread like wildfire. So despite that, basically everyone in the world is reading this poem. And actually, the publishing house won in the court, um, which you know I don't don't quote me on this. I mean, I'm not saying there's like irreparable you know, I'm not saying there's loads of proof around this, but from where I stand, it seems to have paved the way for the kind of like literary and cultural revolution of the 1960s. And I just think that represents so much. It represents, you know, political activism, the fight for change, the fight to empower minorities and queer people and talk about difficult subjects like substance abuse and affect change. And yeah, it really evoked so much, and I just thought it was the perfect name. And obviously, you know, when you're in bed, you want to be howling.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Amazing. So how are you helping the conversations around sex education? Because I mean, we don't really talk about lubricant in sex ed. I didn't anyway in my Catholic school. It wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. I think sex ed is pretty abysmal in the
Mm.
UK and I mean internationally in most countries. I think it's very much you know, let's not speak about it, kind of figure it out on your own. And I think that how and you know all sexual wellness brands have the opportunity to kind of really be a voice and a platform and a resource for people to access better information around everything related to sex. So not just lube and how to use it, when and why, or if you should, but also you know, tips on basic things that people don't have much understanding about, like douching or STI care, but then also more niche kind of endeavors like kink, exploration, or more complex dialogues and arguments. So in many ways, I haven't really seen other brands that's doing that, and I really want how to become a platform for that. How we're doing that is one through our own content channels. We explore kind of unconventional topics around piss or um, armpits or ethical non-monogamy, and people really engage with them. They seem to really spark debate and interest, and that's really exciting to see. And that will grow into, archival database of research and think pieces. But we're also now beginning to launch an ambassador scheme
Mm,
where we're working with content creators, sex positive influencers, OnlyFans stars, porn stars to become ambassadors who represent the brand. And long term, I really want to empower them to become the educators and creating educational content for HOWL in collaboration with HOWL, tackling issues that are meaningful to them, whether that be HIV or women's rights, or pH balance. I think
mm,
none of these things are more important than the other. They all of equal importance, and they're all topics that we should be actively exploring. So, yeah, that's kind of where I see the growth of how education being.
mm. Where is Howl available right now?
So we ship worldwide online, and yeah, you can buy it on our website. We also have an Amazon store in the UK, and we're stocked in a number of retailers across the UK, including Selfridges, which we're really proud of. Some independent sex store retailers, and we're hopefully getting into Ann Summers, which is a big
Mm,
one for us. It's the UK's biggest adult retailer, and we are going through the process of onboarding with them now, which is exciting. Plus, we're in a few retailers across the EU, in like Berlin, Amsterdam. That's through our distributor because we now have EU distribution. So yeah, it's exciting. Things are growing, and really keen to kind of like supercharge them.
amazing. About 2 years ago, I was on GB News in a debate with I can't remember her name now. Is it Narinda Kaur, something like that?
Mm.
And it was really interesting. It was about should sex toys be in supermarkets? And it was a really interesting debate. And I see it as, it's kind of normalizing this, part of life. So what do you think about, having sex toys available in kind of mainstream outlets like that? What's your philosophy? What's your stance on that? Because I mean, for me, I was just thinking, she was saying, what if, teenagers see it, or, it shouldn't be available like that. It should be more kind of hidden. And obviously, I think it's just kind of tackling the taboo and making pleasure more normal. And it's got to be a good thing. 'Cause it's starting conversations, and it's a very important part of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think we should shy away from these things. I think particularly teenagers are very curious and they're very explorative, and the fact that they have access to the internet, they're kind of already aware of things. And I think pretending that they don't have access to these things and pretend that they don't exist actually makes the situation worse and creates shame. And I think having healthy, open dialogues about what intimacy is, when the right time to explore it is, um, you know, pleasure, self-pleasure, I think is a good thing. And I think, a lot of people have their first sexual experience from as young as like 11 or 12. And I think to deny people access to information or education around that age is misinformed. And I actually think just creates more problems longer, like, further down the line. I think by not engaging with young boys specifically, you are encouraging like porn addiction and encouraging people to seek information, knowledge, satisfaction, pleasure in the shadows and elsewhere. And I think that taps into a wider conversation about male violence
Mm,
as people grow older. And I think the sooner you can educate people and have open conversations and have empathy for everyone involved, the better you can tackle the big issues that manifest later down the line and kind of nip them in the bud. I think that all, young men and women should be taught about consent from a very early age. And I think having sex toys in supermarkets is part of that. I think it's fine to promote pleasure. I think, in countries like Spain, they have sex toys in vending machines on the street. I think that the UK is a very traditional and conservative place, and I don't think it has actually benefited from having it, from observing those traditional values. I think in many ways, um, respect for women, people's sexual and intimate well-being would be vastly improved if
Mm.
sexual wellness and intimacy and education was part of the agenda from an early age, and normalizing it in public was part of a open dialogue.
Amazing. There's actually a hardware store here called Media Market. I'm not sure if you know it. It's in a few other countries as well. I remember once I was in Plaza Catalunya, the center of Barcelona, and I was going to buy a bikini trimmer, and I was so surprised I saw sex toys in Media Market, and I made a reel for Instagram, and then I was so surprised because a lot of sex shops in Spain were really angry because they thought it was kind of taking business away. But I would say it's kind of adding to the amount of consumers. And I was really surprised by that, that some sex toy kind of shops were against that kind of visibility in the mainstream of those. But those kind of people who buy them there might not even go to a sex shop because they don't feel comfortable, perhaps, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable buying sex products in person,
Mm,
which is why there's such a big, online appetite and audience. That doesn't mean that people don't do that. I know with our retailers that we work with, over 60, 70% of their trade comes from in person. So I do think that that people actually do like to go and try products in stores.
mm,
But I think for a large number of people, there is still a lot of shame about buying. And whilst we're on our mission to tear down that shame, we also have to respect the current existing situation, which is why we offer discreet shipping and, respect people's nervousness around
mm,
engaging in something that for them is out of their comfort zone.
mm. So I saw a video with you. You come from you studied architecture, then you went into raves, and now lube. Is there anything from your previous careers that's helping you right now? Do you think it's all coming together, all the skills that you've acquired over the years?
Oh my God, absolutely. Like everything I've ever done has kind of come together in this one project.
Mm,
Studying architecture gives you an amazing discipline and a kind of bit of a world view over everything. I almost think of it as like a, rounded education from, like a humanist education from like the 1800s, where you learn a bit about like sociology, economics, physics, philosophy. And ultimately gave me my work ethic to know that I can do anything as long as I just work hard and put my mind to it. Then when I went into film, working on music videos and commercials, you really understand brand building, advertising, production, bringing things together, creating something out of nothing, having a creative vision, executing on it, hiring the right people in order to be able to execute on your creative vision, combining my kind of design, disciplined architecture background with my like branding, advertising, world building experience from being a film director and a creative director, and putting that into my own product brand is amazing. So whilst I didn't go to business school and don't have like formal business experience, I do feel like everything I've done has kind of led me to this moment. And it's my second business because I was the co-founder of a production company called Camp, about 5 years ago when my directing career was kind of in full bloom. So I kind of had done things like set up a company before, get VAT registered. So it's not like this is like completely unfamiliar to me, but I've never been a solo founder. I've never done it on my own fully. So it does feel different, but I feel ready and I feel equipped and I know where I want the business to go and how we're going to get there. And even if I lack skills, I wear that very openly. I don't pretend to know everything, and that, I have an amazing team. I've got amazing events team who are like experts in production and curation and very embedded in the London scene. I have an incredible kind of lube team who do all of the strategy and the marketing and the media. And I'm very fortunate to kind of have people helping support this journey, including advisors and investors who, I guess, are along the ride with me.
Amazing. A couple of quick questions I ask all of my guests. What is the book that changed your life? Are you a reader?
I am a reader, yeah. I read a lot actually. Book that changed my life. Um, I guess the first thing that comes to mind, I have two things. One, I guess, is when I was a kid. And as you can imagine my excitement that was recently adapted into film. But I'm a Dune geek. Like I loved Dune. I love sci-fi books. And I was really obsessed with the Dune books as a kid and just kind of like mm, false messiah prophet story and like the world building of that was amazing. And when Denis Villeneuve adapted them into films recently, they're amazing. I'm like beyond gassed. Um, and then I think the other one, if it comes to mind, I mean, maybe this is a bit basic and mainstream to say, but um, for me, I say reading *Sapiens* really changed the way I thought about humanity. Um, I've always been interested in history, but I guess like linking together basically a history of human evolution through agriculture to the Industrial Revolution and like the modern digital world that we now live in. I yeah, it really changed how I kind of thought about the creation of mythological systems like banking or money as a mythology. And I think deconstructing that is an important way to evaluate the world because basically everything we live in is a human construction, all of the institutions that we've created. And, understanding that helps you realize that, it's almost none of it's real. I think having those like existential moments of like doubt and philosophical realization for me, I think are kind of, emboldening, yeah, thought provoking.
Are you reading anything good now?
I am actually. I I'm getting really into my kind of
Oh,
spirituality
I love that. We're
books.
a very
Yeah,
spiritual
I'm
podcast here. We're very
oh
spiritual.
great.
Yes. What
Yeah, I
anything
mean, I'm like classic, like mid-30s, looking for looking for
meaning?
answers. So I've been reading Becoming Supernatural
I love that. Joe
by Joe
Dispenza. Yeah.
Dispenza. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's really interesting because also I'm a bit of a skeptic and I really enjoy approaching like mysticism and spirituality from a scientific lens. So I've been enjoying that.
Amazing. On this podcast, the Orgasmic Lifestyle is about reaching climax in all areas of life. So we have a lunar schedule, we have sexuality on full moons, but the other episodes are about meditation, spirituality, personal development. So it's kind of bringing a more holistic representation of sexuality. So we do spirituality a lot on here. And I think, having a spiritual journey just changes your perspective on life, and your perspective is your reality at the end of the day. So um,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, I
Mm,
also think, you know, like being a business owner is really intense
mm,
and really scary, and I kind of feel the weight of the world on my shoulders sometimes, and I really don't want to mess it up, and I really want to do the best that I can for my team and for the people who are kind of believing in the project, and also do something that's like meaningful for the community, and like I want to like get it right, and I think having a lot of pressure can can be overwhelming at times. And for me,
mm,
I've found a lot of solace
mm,
in exploring more of a kind of more spirituality and taking moments of pause and breath to recalibrate and to, be at peace with whatever the outcome will be. So for me, on
mm.
this like really intense, crazy journey that's been happening over the past year or two, I've found a lot of comfort in it.
Absolutely, can help you ground, and also can help you see that you're serving the world like a much bigger purpose than yourself. It's very motivating. Yeah. What about a quote or affirmation that you live by?
Oh, interesting. Um, I don't really have one, to be honest. I mean, I used to have one, which was sleep when you're dead. But I think that, I mean, that's
That's a good
probably
one for a
why I got
rave.
it.
That's a
Yeah, I
very
think
kind
that's
of,
why I got into raves.
yeah.
I was like, life's too short to kind of,
Mm,
be like wasting time sleeping around. I guess I don't really have like a regular affirmation that I tell myself, like a motivating thing to kind of inspire me. Um, yeah, I guess if anything, I probably just like look to the people around me as like sources of inspiration.
mm,
I think that you are what you see, and whether it's seeing, the kindness of a friend that I have who, that's completely unrestricted and unreserved and is shared with absolutely everyone they come into contact with, or it's the kind of like hard work ethic of my father,
mm,
or it's the kind of humor and hilarity and like carefree vivaciousness of like my mum, or there's people in my life who I kind of look to for inspiration. And I think if I'm ever feeling like I need motivation, I think, okay, well, what would they do?
mm. Well, that's
I
good.
actually have this one friend who's like really good at like pulling people. And if I'm ever a bit like nervous or unconfident or shy to like make the first move on someone, I'm always like, what would they do?
That's good. Amazing. So where can people find you?
Find me, well, I would say, I mean, obviously I'm online, so if you want to follow my socials, it's Samuel Douek. But if you want to come and chat, then come to a HOWL event, come to a rave. Our next party will be on the 20th of December at Fold. I'll also be doing a panel at the Barbican as part of their Dirty Talks Weekender at the end of November, which I'm looking forward to as well. So yeah, I think if you're interested in like learning more about how, the best way to do it is really to come to one of our parties and try our lube and you know uh, jump into the world of pleasure that we're trying to build.
Amazing. Well, Samuel Douek, thank you for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It was great to be on.
The series I'm going to review for this Pride edition of the Orgasmic Lifestyle is The L Word. And The L Word was a groundbreaking drama series that premiered in 2004 and ran until 2009. This is around the time of my own sapphic exploration. I think I discovered it a little bit late, maybe around 2008 or something like that. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. It was just such a wonderful series. And if you are bi curious, um, especially about women, I definitely would recommend it. It was the first time there's something so mainstream on that existed for lesbians, and I would call it. It was almost like the lesbian Sex and the City. That every episode had some kind of exploration about relational dynamics, and what I really loved about it was that there were quite explicit sex scenes for the time. And also, there were many different types of lesbian in it. So everyone had a favorite character or a character that they identified with. And also the relational dynamics between the couples in the series was very different as well. Sometimes, I mean, I think the opening scene was a long-term couple who were trying for a baby, and then you get the kind of one who's sleeping with lots of people. Then you get the one who is bisexual, and people don't really believe that's an identity, which is something that I have experienced in my life. And yeah, it was very glamorous, and they had this cafe called The Planet. And it was kind of like, does a place like this really exist in real life? It's a kind of cafe that people pop into, and then lots of lots of dynamics would arise in those circles. But one of my favorite ever stories in the L Word was the romance or the explorations of Marina and Jenny. And Jenny was she started off as a straight writer, and it was one day she was in her backyard and she started looking through the bushes at her neighbors next door who were getting it on. And then she just watched and got very curious. And then she met Marina in a party, and then this curiosity and attraction emerged, and it seemed almost forbidden. And then she had her, straight boyfriend and stuff. So trying to kind of manage all of those things in your head. And that's something that really resonated with me at the time, because that's how I felt. I felt very confused about my sexuality, being used to having sex one way, and then suddenly you're in a completely different dynamic with a woman. And it was like, and it was just, it was very, very confusing, going from, how to undress someone. Undressing a woman is very different from undressing a man. And I saw something in a comedy show recently that really kind of really struck a chord with me, because I think it's naive to assume that just because you have the same bodily parts as someone else that you automatically know how to make love to them. Having sex with a woman for the first time was like losing my virginity all over again. And there's that awkwardness of, I don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. And anyway, a comedian that I saw recently or on Instagram was talking about it like, when someone else gives you their mobile, your phone, your cell phone, just to do something on, let's say if you use Apple, and then someone gives you their Android, or even if you use both on Apple. I'm an Apple user for everything. So if someone gives me their phone and I try to do something, because everything's, it looks like it's the same, but everything's in a different place. And that's also the same if you're using someone else's computer as well. And that's exactly how I would describe being with a woman. It's like, I recognize it's similar, but I can't really navigate myself around this unless you guide me. So it was a beautiful exploration. I think the L Word is dated quite a lot, so it seems quite old now. Obviously, it kind of is. Come 20 years old. It was over 20 years since it started, and also the language we use for diversity, sexual identities has changed quite a lot. So a lot of the storylines can feel a bit dated, but nonetheless, it's a really great drama. And even if you're not curious about your sexuality, it makes for great television. It has wonderful storylines, great acting, and it is so gripping. And yeah, it's just wonderful. I really highly recommend it. So if you can find it out there, I'm not sure where it's available to watch now, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. And if you are interested in an all kind of lesbian cast, then I think the cast were mostly straight, but it's the characters they're playing are lesbians and all different types as well, which is I find it's very, very diverse and interesting. I definitely recommend it because it's amazing. And for me, it was something that really helped me with my own identity and navigating my own confusion. And I think it's important to have this representation in mainstream media for everyone. I think it's important to have those role models and have these things as a reflection of what's going on in society. So yeah, highly recommended. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I honor the beauty and diversity of every human being. I embrace my true self with courage and compassion. Love deserves respect and celebration. I deserve to live openly, safely, and authentically. My identity is valid, valuable, and worthy of acceptance. I celebrate the uniqueness that makes me who I am. I choose authenticity over conformity. I welcome a world where everyone can express themselves freely. Diversity enriches our communities and our shared humanity. I create space for understanding, empathy, and inclusion. I release shame and embrace self-acceptance. I honor the journeys of those who came before me. I support those who are still finding their voice. I believe everyone deserves dignity, equality, and belonging. I cultivate relationships built on respect, trust, and mutual care. I celebrate love as a force for connection and healing. My differences are a source of strength. I support environments where people can thrive as their authentic selves. I choose kindness over judgment. I choose curiosity over assumption. I am proud of who I am and who I am becoming. I contribute to a more inclusive, compassionate, and accepting world. I deserve joy, pleasure, safety, and love exactly as I am. I celebrate the courage it takes to live authentically. Every person has the right to be seen, heard, and respected. I honor my identity and respect the identity of others. Pride is a celebration of resilience, visibility, and hope. If you enjoy the affirmations and meditations I share here, you will love the longer versions I've created on Insight Timer, the world's #1 meditation app, available in the App Store and on Google Play. Every Friday, I release a brand new guided practice on topics like love, health, wealth, motivation, abundance, and many more things, all designed to help you relax, recharge, and realign. Just search for Venus O'Hara on Insight Timer or follow the link in the show notes. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.